Hello, dear friends. Here we are, 15 cases of past lives. Based on the book, 15 Past Lives by Amalia Domingo Soler. The original book, written in Spanish, was titled Hechos que Prueban. In Portuguese, the full book was translated a while ago, and it is titled Reencarnação e Vida. And you will have an opportunity to read it because it's in PDF format. The latest translation of 15 of those cases done by Luis Rivas is going to be soon available as we are working on the translation. Our dear Carlos Diaz, our dear Shane Martin are working on it together. We are also collaborating with the revision so we can together study the book, release to you, and you can get to know more about yourself. It's very important to study the continuum of life. Life goes on, not only from here to the spiritual plane, but also back here, and on and on and on until we learn. Reincarnation is like going to school, but we need to really be focused to be a good student, right? What are the ideal qualities of a student? Be focused, be disciplined, know what he's doing, the meaning of it all. So there are many students nowadays who go to school and they don't even know what they're doing there. They're like, oh, well, what am I doing here? Why am I studying this? But for the, I would say few, because they're few, the conscientious students in our schools in the world, they actually are focused, determined, persistent, and disciplined. They know why they are there. They want to learn, no matter what. Even a test is an opportunity to learn. This is the good student. Majority of people are not there yet. But we have great teachers from the beyond, and they are also here with us. Why not? Because we want to learn, right? We are here in this Intercontinental Spiritist Center, in our 11th hour Spiritist Center, as Rudy said once. And here we have our friends, okay? Here we have our friends together, okay? So, let's keep trying. I don't understand why. Okay, hold on a second. Why you can't hear us right here? Please, on Facebook Live, I hope you can listen to us here, okay? Thank you for being with us, Shane. Thank you, Solange, Andrea, Elder. How are you? Yes, Rihanna, Carol, Correa, thank you for double checking the system. Erika and Danny, how are you? Karina, how are you? Sunshine, and who else? Aline, how are you? Elia, we are doing great now that we're with you. Leia Severo and Shane. You know, I hope you can listen to us here. Adilson, yes. Jailton, Rudy, hello, friends. Who else is having a problem listening to us? Carol Correa said she's hearing us also on Facebook. I hope you guys are finding your way in, friends, okay? I hope. Let's keep together. Before I start the case of today, let me answer to a question of a few listeners from yesterday. Yesterday, which was case number 7, we were studying about that tragedy in a psychiatric hospital. And some listeners asked a very interesting question, okay? Thank you, Sunshine. Thank you, Erica, for double checking the system on Facebook. It's good to know everything's okay. But you know, listeners have asked a very important question that we could address today. If you didn't hear the whole case, you can watch the program on case 7, A Crime by an Obsessed Madman, and then come back. But I'm going to rewind the tape of just an excerpt of it. Remember Ambrosio, the madman, the man who was already in the psychiatric hospital, very violent. He was in a straitjacket. He was kept like, you know, on a leash, let's say this way. And then a young man, Merrim, who was brought in, just admitted in the hospital. He was not actually psychiatrically ill. But his brother, who wanted the whole inheritance, he made sure that the doctors would admit him so he could keep everything for himself. But some listeners asked, because when Merrim comes in, the guards are called to do something else. They leave Ambrosio and Merrim face to face. And Ambrosio says to Merrim, "Set me free." And Merrim doesn't discern. Is he sick? Apparently not. But he doesn't discern. He surrenders himself to the proposal, the request, and sets Ambrosio free. And Ambrosio goes out of the blue and kills Merrim. The listeners asked, how did Merrim surrender to that call by Ambrosio? And that's very important. Their connections from previous lives made Merrim, through his guilt, listen to the mermaid whisper, quote unquote, of Ambrosio. His guilt made him feel easily susceptible to that suggestion of Ambrosio. And, you know, connect to the violence of Ambrosio. Okay? So it's very important for us. Julija, hello. Angelita, Sunshine, I hope you guys get back there, okay? I hope. But many people ask the same question. How come this person surrendered to the whims of that person? How come this person surrendered to that thing, etc.? The previous lives connections that we have with one another. The guilt inside of us. Remember when Emmanuel talks about the power of suggestion? And André Luiz, in another book that is yet to be published in English, Mechanisms of Mediumship, he talks about the triggers, the inductors, the stimulus that becomes an inductor of an action, of a word, of a feeling, of a thought. So that's the reason why constantly we need to push that button of the mode, seeking the good always, every day, all the time, 100%. The mind, like a computer, works under, okay? The ones who want to work, a computer works under a program. Our minds also work if we have a program. We need to reprogram the old conditionings with new ones. And the only way out is seeking the good. Merim, based on his previous life, though apparently innocent, deep inside, all of his programming was violence, was aggression, and he fall trap into the hands of Ambrosio. Expiation. But we can cut the shackles of the past, if and only if we seek the good. Always. Adilson is kindly recommending for the ones who want to have a second option of sound, keep KardecRadio.com, but both are working fine. Thank you, Adilson. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hello, Nico. Welcome. Friends, let me share something with you. The chapter today is chapter 8, case 8. The miserable greedy man. It's unbelievable that all the time, right, Cesar? How are you and Marcella? Amália Domingos Soler is reporting to us cases of people who were so attached to the material life. Of course, these are extreme cases, because these are cases that really accentuate the certain features of our morality that needs to be refined. It's as if we're studying in medicine diseases so we can get to know of how to treat those diseases, right? Right now, we're just like in the medical school, studying pathology so we can one day work on our way out of the pathology. And these are cases of the pathology of the spirit. Yeah, we could even write a book, Pathology of the Soul, of the reincarnating soul. Pathologies of the spirit. Those conditions, those features that really impair us to function to the best of our ability. So, here we have the case. Shall we? Yes, Sol? Yes, Gustavo? Let's go. Remember, what we're reaping today, we have sowed yesterday. So she begins, and it's adorable how Amália Domingos Soler, this beautiful soul, wrote this book. She talks to you and I like we are in a conversation. She says, even though we are used to seeing human beings with eccentricities and grab our attention, we're always surprised to see an unfortunate person being victim of herself. Okay? As the spirits say, nobody should play the role of tormentor to punish the faults of others. Each person becomes their own tormentor because in God's eternal justice, each being harvests what they have sowed. Scrolling through newspapers, I found some news, and as I read it, I asked. Okay? I asked. Let's see here. What is the cause of this effect? And the inner voice said, greediness of 100 centuries. Yeah, you're hearing it right. The greediness of 100 centuries. So this is the case that Amália Domingos Soler shares with us. She read in the newspaper that at a particular street in Spain, a homeless man was found having like under crisis, like an attack. He was rescued, and when he got to the hospital, he was, he died. The man lived in extreme poverty, sleeping on a ragged bed in a corner of a house. But they found under his bed, 30,000 Spanish pesetas in his bank accounts. Can you believe it? A homeless who has a lot of money but doesn't use it. Why? Why? Right? And the spirit guide of Amália Domingos Soler answers through psychography. He says, that's it. Greediness was the torment of this unfortunate man. He suffered in this existence all the tortures that hunger brings. He possessed a modest fortune, which would meet his basic needs, for what he had, he couldn't afford. He could afford what he needed. He had little choice but to start paying for his past life's debts. He had been exposed where he had been exposed for a long time. On the spiritual plane, he finally became convinced that earth's riches, with all their power of greatness and luxury, represent nothing in the eternal life of the spirit. The man who died today of hunger was the king of gold 100 centuries ago. He had a natural talent for always pursuing profitable business. The sands of the desert became in his hands the dust of gold. Worthless stones, precious stones, and those from the east became of incalculable value. He was fortune's favorite son. As they say on earth, of every business he started, luck smiled upon him. However, his thirst for wealth had no limits, like some people we hear in the news nowadays, right? We hear people just like this nowadays. They have a lot, but they want more. They want more, and they want more. And they want to steal the moon, like Dr. Gru. They want to steal the moon because Earth is small for them now. Can you believe it? Yeah, that's in the movie Despicable Me. But some people, just like Dr. Gru, the character, they have this, that, and the other, but they want more, something exquisite. So they are outstanding, and deep inside, all they need is a good psychological treatment, because they are searching for nourishment in things that will never nourish them. Can we pause for a second, since it's a therapeutic conversation, and ask ourselves, do you do the good because of good? Because it is good, and you do the good because of the good in itself? Or you do the good because you need attention? Or because you need care? Or because you need to compensate things that you didn't receive in your childhood? Or it could even be because of previous lives issues. Can we answer this question in our minds? Why do you do the good? Because, why are we asking this? Because there are people who enter the field of doing the good out of ego needs, egotistic needs. They do the good to feel important, because in their personal lives They have no professional status. They have no intellectual achievements. So they enter religious organizations, organizations of non-profit efforts, even spiritist organizations, just to feed the ego. And good is just secondary. And then we are caught up, meetings after meetings after meetings after meetings after meetings after meetings, discussing, and a lot of politics and a lot of bureaucracy. Meanwhile, the people who are suffering are left to themselves. That happens in any religious pathway. That happens in any non-profit organization. We need to ask ourselves, do we want to do the good because we're trying to fill a hole of guilt? Or a hole of appreciation that we haven't got? What is it? Why are we doing this? Because when we do the good for the good itself, it's joyful, it's wonderful, we have no limits. When we put limits to doing the good, it's a sign that we're not doing the good because of the good, but we're doing the good to fill up a hole that is inside of our emotional life. That's something for us to meditate. This man, all he wanted was wealth. He never visited an orphan. He never heard the cries of an abandoned old man or a troubled widow. And as Kardec said, in the Medium's book, there are spiritists who become spiritists by theory. They go to the spiritist center, they do the practices, but they don't actually, they give talks, but they don't talk to the people who are troubled. They don't go visit people who are sick. They don't answer the phone or the emails that people send. Then we ask, why are we doing this? Just like this man. In his case, he was searching for wealth. But in other cases, people are attached to the egotistic positions that they temporarily fulfill at their jobs, in their families. Their parents who rejoice because they have authority over their children. So they're not kind. They're not polite with the children. They're not caring. They just want to feel the pleasure of exerting their authority. Putting down the child, making the child feel less. I know, you don't know. I know how to speak. You don't know how to speak yet. Very, almost like bullying the child, though they don't have the conscience of doing this. So this man was completely unaware. Completely. Okay? He didn't know exactly what he was doing. Like many people on the earth. What are the goals of our lives? We need to ask this question. Right? Right here. And now I can see that some of you may be there or may not be there. Am I right? I just want to make sure that you are there, friends. Or if I need to restart. Can somebody just give me a sign that this is not frozen? Because if it is, I need to change it. Can somebody give me a feedback, please? Thank you, Adilson. We are live. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Rihanna. Thank you, Adilson, and everybody who replied. Thank you. Now, these men, thank you, friends. Thank you, Julija. Thank you, Jailton. So this man satisfied his smallest desires. The leftovers of his table were not given to anyone, not even to his dogs. So he was greedy. Thank you, Carol. He gave not enough leftover bread loaves for his servants. Friends, and there are people who are like this nowadays. Still, okay? Try to refresh Shane to see if you get out of the unfrozen, okay? Or Saul. Thank you. Now, poor was the servant who dared to be compassionate. He would soon be fired for his disobedience. So can you imagine a man who was so greedy? His servant tried to give the leftovers to somebody and he fired him because he didn't want compassion to take place. In this way he lived 100 centuries, until at last he heard the voice of his spiritual guide, who said to him, "Unfortunate man, are you not tired of living in the shadows? Your hands are not stained with the blood of your fellow men, but you have given the worst example that a man who is not a murderer can give. You had much water in the fountains of your properties, and you denied it to the thirsty pilgrims. The fruit in your orchards rotted away before you offered them to the little children who asked with eager eyes." And you know, I'm going to put a pause again to share something. Minimal things that we forget. 2 weeks ago, Mentor Joseph said, "Vanessa, it's springtime, it's time to blossom and also to keep working on recycling, you know, what's not needed any longer." Said, "Can you go over your wardrobe again and make sure that what doesn't serve you any longer, just donate. There are people who need it. Each person who needs something and you find it in your wardrobe is a minus for you energetically." And I was like, "But Mr. Joseph, I recently did that and I'm not buying anything." But he said, "You know, go over it again." And I did, and I was shocked about the much that I actually found in my wardrobe. It's just about perspective. Like, I went over a new search. So I was like, oh, I can give this. Yeah, this is actually not gonna serve any longer. It's cute, but you know, it's for another time, no longer this. And I was shocked about the much that I was accumulated unconsciously. And it's about things, relationships, and attitude. Conditionings of the past. This greedy man has been cherishing this greediness and his ambitions for centuries. What is the top thing you have been cherishing for centuries that is not serving you any longer? What kind of attachment? Thank you, friends, and I hope you get your way into the Facebook page. I'm so sorry. Okay? I'm sorry that this is happening. We need to talk to Facebook people to see why. Hello, Ana Mercia. How are you? How are you? I can see here live on Facebook, and I hope you can get yourself, you know, into the video later. Hello, Emerson. How are you? Welcome, welcome. Now, this is very important for us. This man, okay, he heard this voice inside of him that he was greedy. Wake up. Wake up. It's time for you to earn virtues, not coins. Should we put a banner and fly with an airplane over Washington, D.C.? Maybe. Or in our own home, anywhere in the world. It's time for you to earn virtues, not coins. It's time for all of us to earn virtues and not coins. How many of us are attempting that same mode and it's not serving as a purpose? We don't feel any happier. We don't feel fulfilled any longer. That habit doesn't serve us. What do you do? Pray? Yes. But count on your guardian angel to guide you through new habits. Creation of new habits. That's the reason why I share with you my conversations here and there with Mentor Joseph. Because in the Spirit's book, it's saying, St. Augustine writes, when he talks about guardian angels, the chapter on the influence of spirits over our lives, that we are not going to tire our guardian angels when we ask them questions. Thank you, Jailton. He's saying that it's probably their connection because he's getting a perfect connection. It means on their side. I'm so sorry, friends. Let's pray that you get in, okay? Hello, Marco Leite and Laura Colery. Thank you for being with us here, right? Now, listen to this. The unfortunate miser, listen to the voice, because there's always a day we're going to shift. We're going to change. We're going to, like Saul of Tarsus. There's always a turning point. But it doesn't come from outside in. It comes from inside out. If you're expecting that the turning point is going to come externally to you, forget it. It's coming from you. You will be permeable to it. Some people think the Saul of Tarsus, the Apostle Paul, when he was Saul, riding a camel in the pathway to Damascus, that Jesus actually woke him from his trance. No, no, no. Emmanuel, in the dialogue, he clearly states that deep inside, Saul of Tarsus was conflicted. So if you're experiencing a major crossroad in your life, thumb up. It's a sign you're getting out of a pathway, entering a new one. That roadway doesn't serve you any longer. There is another one crossing it that is inviting you, but you still need to make a decision. If you're tired of that old pathway, courage. That's why Jesus told Bartholomew that the three main virtues of those who follow the good news are joy, the joy of being in the road. Then hope, hope that everything is going to change, because it will. But courage to push yourself there. Effort and repetition. André Luiz says in the book Evolution in the Two Worlds. We learn, we have this predisposition to learning, but we only learn if we make effort, will, repetition. We need to repeat and repeat and repeat. Some people read Spiritist books and they tell me, that one I've read already. No, but repeat it. Because once you repeat the reading, you not only go deeper into the ones you've noticed, but you're going to pick up things you haven't noticed because they acquire a different perception. Perception depends on your maturity. Let me share something with you. Daniel Siegel, who is one of the leading neuroscientists in the literature of emotional management, he talks about our brain. And just so you picture it, if you close your hand just like this, look, like your brain. Spinal cord, goes in midbrain, and then here you have the emotional part, the limbic system. And this represents the cortex, the most advanced part of our brain. Here, the forehead, the prefrontal cortex. Spiritism is the light of discernment. When there is a stimulus coming in through your eyes, through your hearing, through your touch, the 5 senses, and even the 6th sense, it is processed through the spiritual and the physical brain. It gets through the nerves, the cranial nerves, into your pathways. And it's going to affect, of course, several different areas activating it. But this area, the cortical area, is the one, especially the prefrontal cortex, is the one that is going to be recruited when we are humans, okay? To counterbalance the lower emotional impulses that are inside. So Spiritism is the light of discernment that helps us coordinate our emotions. That's why thought is life. Thought meaning what we think and what we feel. And this discernment is going to tame it, reorganize it. So for many centuries we have been working with the most primitive areas of our brain. Now it's time to boost the discernment, which is the prefrontal cortex. The light of discernment, Spiritism, comes and boosts the connections there. We learn, 1, to identify things at emotional levels we've never observed before in ourselves. 2, those connections help us manage those emotions with greater wisdom. So we're not lost any longer into fear. Many people cherish their attachments because they are afraid. If you stop doing certain things nowadays, you may ask, what am I going to do without it? What am I going to cherish? So you need to learn the new. And the new is a nun until you find Jesus. Because with Jesus, what you don't know, the next step, when you look at the personal trainer, Jesus Christ, we already know the next step. So no longer fear. That's why we're joyful. How can you be joyful if you're sick? How can you be joyful if you have financial constraints? How can you be cheerful and joyful if you have relationship problems? How can you be joyful and cheerful if you have issues of other sorts? Because I know this is passing. It's a test. And I'm going to pass this test. I don't know how, but I know that if I keep emulating Jesus, I will. And that's why you're boosting your hope, because you have a model that said, come this way, and it's gonna come. As Carol Correa is saying, Jesus is passing by. Literally. Right, Rita Di Cassia? Right, Rose? Right, Rudy? The joy to be here. Hope that Facebook will cooperate and perseverance that can keep us going. Thank you, Rudy, for your beautiful sense of humor. But Jesus is passing by every day. You wake up and he's saying, I'm passing by, come on over. Every day. The sun shines and he's telling you. What is he telling you? This little light of yours, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. That's what the sun is telling us every day. That's exactly what is happening to us. We need to trust this divine inside of us, right? And Erica, Jesus is really passing by. Jesus is passing by. Jesus is passing by. And when he comes, everything is fine. Sadness is gone and happiness arrives. And when he comes, everything is fine. Sadness is gone and happiness arrives. So boost your prefrontal cortex. Hope, joy. Don't be stuck in these temporary emotions. Emotions come and go. With our will, we can redirect it all. Okay? Now this man, what happened to him? That spiritual guide was telling him, you need to stop this pattern. So in this last existence, this man who died very poor but with a lot of money, he could not resist his old habit of accumulating riches. But he didn't use it for himself. He was strong enough, says here, not to use it for himself. So the spirit guide of Amália Domingo Soler is saying, do not judge people. Because many people are going to look at him and say, oh my God, he was so selfish. But he said, no, bow down respectfully before this spirit, who with an explosion of will, it takes a lot of will to have a lot of money and not use it, right? Explosion of will has said to himself, I want to see the light. I want to regenerate myself. I want to take the first step on the path of sacrifice. No more selfishness. No more exclusiveness. No more spiritual misery. Respect the poor in spirit who are taking the first step in becoming enlightened. Because given the first step, the advance will become a model of altruism and generosity. Look at this rule. To break the pattern, you give the first step. But you're not complete in acquiring a new habit. But when you continue, you're already at another road. Just like Paul of Tarsus, once he shifted first step out, the other 30 years of his life were completely a work of an altruistic mind. How did that happen? That can happen to you. That can happen to me. But Vanessa, what is the key? Your will. The explosion of your will. How is your will doing? So? No. Ignite it. Boost it. Don't be afraid. Work for the good with all the resources you can. Sculpt the new life. Sculpt the good wherever you are. No regrets. No regrets. I only know what the Spirit said to Kardec in the Spirit's book. We will regret the good that we didn't fulfill, that we didn't do. But I've never heard in the messages of the spirits through heaven and hell, in our mediumistic meetings, in several books of spiritism, that a good spirit regretted doing a lot of work for the good. Oh, I wish I had done less. Have you heard of that message? No. If somebody's telling you, you're working too much for the good of others and forgetting yourself, you compassionately look at that person and say, let us pray. Because right now, just like Jesus said to Peter, you are being the voice of the forces of darkness. Because the world, the universe, is a byproduct of the good. There is not too much when we talk about the infinite good that exists in the universe. We're destined to work tirelessly for the good, to the good. You ready? Explosion of will? Yes? Let us stop here for today and meditate how we can boost our will and be together. For tomorrow is going to be another day. God willing, we'll be together and boosting our will, our courage, our joy to other levels. In the meantime, let us exercise these virtues: joy, courage, and hope. Shall we? Until tomorrow, friends.